Yeah, the year, I think the year was 1998, and no, the year was 1999, and I was working in advertising, and I was shooting some film, and Bam Margera and Ryan Dunn showed up to the set, just to meet me. And they said, hey, listen, we know you shoot film. Like, by then I had established myself. I had a really good reputation as a very keen cinematographer. And they said, look, we know you shoot film. And Bam explained, I'm making a music video for my brother's band called CKY. You probably never heard of them, but, I know that if we shoot something in film, it's going to be awesome. So I said, what? A production guy in advertising normally said at the time, I said, well, do you have a script and a storyboard? He said, well, I know what that stuff is, but I don't have anything like that, but I know how it's going to be in my head. I said, well, what are we going to do? And he pointed to Ryan Dunn. He said, well, he's going to get in the car, and he's going to give me the finger or something like that. And then I'm going to get a bike. So my brother's going to be riding down the street on a bike, and I'm going to kick him off the bike. And I said, well, you're going to kick him off the bike? He goes, yeah. I said, well, how do you want to do the stunt? He said, well, yeah, I'll just kick him off the bike. I was like, well, you're just going to run up and kick him off the bike and then have him just slam on the ground. He said, yeah. How else are we going to do it? I was like, all right, what's going to happen next? And he's like, well, Ryan Dunn's going to get in the car and he's going to crash into a bridge. And I was like, well, how are we going to do the crash thing? And he said, well, what do you mean how are we going to do it? We can just buy a car for $100 and just crash it into the bridge. And I said, well, what about permits? What about shooting permits and all that stuff with the borough and the township? He's like, permits? How does that work? I said, let me get this straight. You're just going to buy a car for $100 and crash it into a bridge. And you're going to kick your brother off a bike for real. And you're going to do all this stuff. And Dan said, yeah. I said, I'm there. And he said, look, I can't pay you to do it. I can pay for the film. I said, don't worry, I'll be there. And we made that video. It was called 96 Quite Bitter Beings by CKY, and it fucking got on MTV. It was one of the top played videos. It was on full rotation on Total Request Live.
Was it really?
And
that was on TRL?
Yeah. Pardon?
That was on TRL?
Yeah, 96 Quite Bitter Beings was on TRL, full rotation.
Shit. Wow, I remember being up at this was when I was 14, 15, maybe summer vacation, and I remember seeing 96 in the middle of the night. This was when MTV's music video block towards the end was maybe 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. So you get 5 hours of music videos nonstop, and when their second station came about, it was better for a little while, but the only CKY that I ever saw on MTV before everything kind of blew up maybe a year or two after that was in the middle of the night. I remember seeing 96 in the middle of the night. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and to have the first music video you do for a band, I mean, we shot, I think, 4 rolls of film, which is we had 12 minutes of footage to make that music video. You're talking about having to shoot efficiently. We filmed that all throughout Westchester.
No, I mean
Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean the band shots in that, it looked like a warehouse or something.
Yeah,
that was all shot.
I think that was in a skate park, the warehouse.
Oh, okay. Wow, I haven't seen that video in a long time. But that video, I mean, were you at that point? I would assume one CKY music or one CKY film was out. Right, the first one.
Yeah,
or was that before
Ben was just finishing up CKY 2K. So then he said, "Listen, I want you to start shooting film. We're gonna make this thing CKY 3, and I want to shoot a lot of it in film, and also shoot a couple more music videos." So we did that, really upped the production value. I mean, we were shooting shopping cart slams in 35 millimeter film with the same camera they were shooting major Hollywood films on.
Yeah,
and we were running from the police while we did it. So Rab himself, Chris Rab, actually got arrested while we did it. While he was wearing, there was a gag he did where he wore a jock strap, nothing but a jock strap, and he was hitchhiking, And we were like, well, let's rub fake blood all over your ass. You run out of the bushes and you just start hitchhiking. But what we didn't know was the police were looking for a flasher.
Oh, no.
And so all these people, with cell phones being new at the time, everyone's calling the cops when they see Rab. We're laughing our asses off. And here come the cops, arrest Rab for being the town flasher. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, so shooting CKY3, we began to shoot a lot of film, and then we went right into production of a movie called Haggard with Bam Margera, Ryan Dunn. I produced the movie and was the cinematographer, and Bam directed it. Bam actually had Tony Hawk invest in it and appear in the movie. And to this day, of all the things that I've ever done, I take the most pride and get the best reception through Haggard. It was so much fun to make. It was a lifestyle that we lived. That movie could never be remade. It could never be, again, it's like a Clerks movie, type of movie by Kevin Smith. It's like people either love it or they hate it. I mean, some people. The biggest compliment I ever got on the film was I met this group of kids, and they said for the summer of, I think, their 10th grade, they had that movie on repeat on DVD players in their rooms for the entire summer. So they would sleep to it, they'd wake up to it, they'd get dressed to it, they'd brush their teeth to it, they'd come home at night, it would still be playing. And that was just so cool. They wanted to live that lifestyle. And I know so many people who were inspired to make films because of that movie. On the other end of the scale, I read one review for the movie, and I still remember because it's so hilarious. It says, "Hell is watching this movie on repeat for eternity."
Oh, that's fucked up. That's fucked up. They could have
picked... No, you gotta embrace. You got to embrace something like that. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, you're never gonna get another review like that. It's holy shit. See, the thing was, after CKY 2K, I mean, you could see the film style progress and change, and it gained an overall feel that sort of stuck around because you saw it in 3. You also saw it in Haggard. Because the film, you know what I mean? I don't know if it was the editing style, the
it was
film
a film.
style.
Yeah, we shot that entire movie in super 16 millimeter film.
Yeah.
So I really got to do whatever I want with the shots and the cinematography. And again, we did not have a lot of money. I think we shot that movie on like a 6-to-1 ratio, which means if it's a 90-minute movie, we shot that times 9. My math sucks. 9 times 6 is 54. So that's how many minutes of footage we had to shoot. I can describe it. I can describe Haggard as an emergence and culmination of what we were trying to accomplish visually as filmmakers. Haggard was our masterpiece. That's exactly what it was. And it's a very special film. The film has a ton of heart, and you can tell that we had to live a certain way. I mean, there was no. I made up a shooting schedule, but, it didn't last long. We would wake up in the morning, we'd load the film, we'd start filming, we'd go around to all our spots, we'd get our filming done, and we'd go to sleep, we'd wake up, repeat. That was it, and what else is interesting about Haggard is the story. It's a very emotional film. It's funny. And to sum it up, Ryan Dunn plays this character whose girlfriend is cheating on him. His girlfriend is played by Jen Revell of the CKY crew, who's cheating on him with a guy named Hellboy, played by Raytheon. So the whole CKY crew is playing a cast of characters in this scripted comedy, and all of Ryan Dunn's emotion and insecurity and all the changes that are emerging in his world, and everybody can identify with him. And as funny and as silly and as goofy and as stupid as the movie is, it can touch you and it can make you cry. So again, Haggard was our masterpiece, and to this day, it's the thing that everyone. It's the thing that really sticks out through that whole era. I think you had a good insight in that the sensibilities and personality from the CKY videos definitely, absolutely, 100% came through, bled through to that movie. And you could tell that when Ryan was freaking out about his girlfriend, he had felt those emotions before. It was more than method acting. Again, this was a movie that could only have been made through the lifestyle we were living.
And it was a masterpiece, and none of those guys went to acting school. They just fucking did it. They just did it.
Yeah.
And they ended up with something so completely different and unique because of that, because they went into it just like that.
It was definitely an achievement in independent film by all standards.
It was like you were watching another CKY movie, except shit was turned up a notch.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But it was great. So if 96...
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
Turned up, it was a CKY video turned up a notch. You couldn't have said it better.
96 was the first music video that you did for them, and that was their first music video too. What was the second? I mean, I don't think they did anything else on Volume 1, except maybe...
I think we did... I think the next two... I think we did... Yeah. Swanker 96, Quake Bitter Beans, we did 2 music videos back-to-back. We did Attached at the Hip, and we did Escape from Hellview.
So those were the first 2 for the IDR album. The music video album, which I want to get to that, because I know I got a few questions about that. But there was a scene in the first CKY film. Apparently, it was supposed to be a To All of You music video that didn't get completed or turned out. Were you involved in that, or that might have been slightly before your time?
No, it was before my time.
Okay, that's what I thought. So Attached was Attached and Hellview, which, what's funny, Hellview was shot at Arisafa Farms. And I went there with my girlfriend last Halloween. That is by far the best haunted house. It has to be the best haunted house in the country. It's still. I saw the big cow skull. It was still there. I got a picture of it. I said, "Holy shit! I remember that thing."
Yeah, Arisafa Farms. We filmed a lot there. Randy Bates, the owner of that property, is just an amazing person, and very nice and very gracious and always willing to help independent filmmakers. And, to him, it's not about the promotion. It's about giving back to the community. If any of you within the sound of my voice ever get a chance to hit up that haunted hayride, you are in for a treat. One of the things he actually does is he has this armless man that comes out and attacks the hayride people, and everyone's like, how the hell did you do the armless man? He's like, I didn't think I did it. I got an armless man. We put blood all over his shirt. Over the years, we filmed CKY videos there. We filmed part of Haggard there. We filmed a lot of the Jackass episodes on that property. We filmed a video game show called Blastazoid that I directed with Ray Kyan and Brandon DiCamillo. If you're a CKY fan, you're in for a big treat too, because you'll be able to see a lot of the little nooks and crannies on that property that we filmed in over the years.
Every single song for that album had a music video. And if you ever see the varied storylines that are presented in the videos and the various production elements and styles, you're going to know how much work, or you're going to have a good idea of how much work went into making that. How long did that thing take, start to finish? I know it was kind of a rough time. It had to have been. How long did that thing take?
It took about 8 months to shoot all those videos and also do the various other projects we were working on. At the same time we were shooting the CKY videos, we were in pre-production for making music videos for the band called Him. We were also in production for MTV's Viva La Bam. So a lot of stuff was happening in and around the same time frame. And, a lot went into those videos. And what's awesome about it is when you pop in the CKY Infiltrate, Destroy, Rebuild music video album, what's great is the videos are shown back to back with the making ofs. And people love those making ofs because it showed a lot of the dilemmas and problems that we had to work through to bring those things to life.
And there were a few that come to mind. Somebody almost died. I mean, among other things.
Yeah, Chad Ginsburg almost died for his art. There was I had hired a special effects guy to come in and do the effects. Now, he was strongly recommended to me, and he had a brilliant show reel. But what I didn't know was he was just showing, and I didn't even know people would do this. It's so unethical. He would just take other filmmakers' work and put them on a show reel and say that he did that. And he had so many people in the Philadelphia area. He had told so many lies about how he had all these connections to money and how he had this and how he had, he was willing to put up money for. Everyone was afraid to say that this guy was a charlatan. So I hired this guy because everyone vouched for him. And so he came up, and I remember there was a gag where Chad was playing his guitar while being hung by the noose, and he came up with a harness that looked like a medieval torture device that he was going to hang Chad on. I was like, dude, you can't hang him by this horrible harness. Like, this thing will kill him. So somebody had a proper, mountain climbing harness or something like that, and he begins to put a noose around Chad's neck. And I said, where's the brake line where's the safety brake for the noose? And he goes, well, there's no safety brake. I was like, wait, you're going to put a real noose around his neck with no safety brake? He goes, well, yeah, it's not tied to the top of the tree. I said, dude, have you ever heard of anything getting caught on something? Jesus. So we put a safety brake in the noose. Chad, while hanging there, wanted to do a signature guitar flip, and so Chad's hanging by this harness, which is attached by a wire on the tree. The wire you can't see. It looks like he's hanging by the noose. Everything's going good. He does a signature guitar flip, and Chad is he's slight. He's not a frail guy. He has a lot of muscle on him, but he's very thin. So he exhales as he's doing the guitar flip, and he runs out of oxygen and just stops. He just stopped breathing. He just kind of asphyxiated.
Yeah,
and
you can see it in the video too. You can see it right when
you see him shaking.
Yeah.
You see him going into when you're out of oxygen, your body starts to shake to try and get some circulation going. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, God damn, he's doing a good job of faking like he's hanging to death. And once you realize what was happening, we got him down. I know CPR. I'm certified in first aid and CPR, so I started giving him a little CPR. He came to. It was very frightening. But, I took a lot of flack for this. But I was like, Chad, are you okay? You need to go to the hospital? I checked it for, I ran to do some tests. He seemed fine. I was like, let's keep shooting. We have a job to do here. We're renting lights.
Show must go on.
Mornings are right around the corner. Let's keep shooting. And a lot, it's interesting, too. I do get a lot of flack for keep shooting. But you know what? We wouldn't have a video if my duties as producer didn't compel me to keep the show moving on.
Which one can you still watch and say, damn, that's a badass video? I mean,
on the CKY IDR album, I could not pick my favorite video. I personally love the fact that we balance it out with the reality stuff that we did, the behind-the-scenes stuff, where you can actually see us making the videos. I think the reality aspect of that film, I call it a film. The 10 music videos and the making of, I really consider that like a reality film that stands on its own. I would probably say, with production, in light of and consideration of production value, I would say that Shock and Terror is probably our biggest achievement. Again, We shot that at Harris Tapper Farms. We had full reign of the place. Harris Tapper Farms, where they have the haunted hayride. We had full reign of the place. We had Misty Monday, Erin Brown, who was this B movie scream queen that came out and played the part of the victim. In the making of, we really didn't have a story to go with in the making of, so we just kind of played up Darren's directorial participation in the video, which I thought it really worked out well, because it's actually the first video we made where we didn't have any big problems. I was like, well, if we're going to make this interesting, we have to have a production problem. So rather than do that, I just shot a lot of footage of Darren really getting into telling her what to do with that knife. I thought that was a lot of fun.
That was the beginning of his. I mean, now he's doing horror movies. He's doing this. He's doing that. I mean, that really was the beginning of it. Because before then, all we knew about Darren in horror, from a fan's perspective, was Ask CKY, and
right.
Black Christmas and Roller Coaster and all these movies he would keep talking about. But you knew it was. I mean, as soon as he took the reins of that, and it's documented on film, it just happened like that. That was
absolutely, yeah. I mean, with horror movies is a lifestyle for Derek Miller of CKY. I mean, he lives and breathes horror movies. Like I remember when I was on the CKY tour bus, filming for the IDR DVD. He was, I remember he had like 7 different copies on VHS of the movie Halloween. And I was like, why do you have so many copies? And he said, because each one is different. He explained to me that they had so many different cuts for like the theatrical version, or there was different television versions that included other scenes and other, and back then when they would film a movie, they would film like a clean, like a version of each take where there was profanity, and they'd also show like a clean version where they weren't cursing. And so he would have all these different versions of the movie that came out so he could enjoy it in all of its form. I thought that was really interesting. He's also a big Three Stooges fan, which I love.
Damn, that's the other.
Yeah.
The opposite end of the spectrum. The fuck? But his horror influence has shown in his music, though, as well. I mean, the lyrics that he has contributed to the band have always been vivid enough to the point where the first time you listen to one of CKY's albums, if there's no music video for that song, there's one in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
It had to be somebody's duty to get that cohesion between visual and oral together. I would assume that largely relied on you, right?
Well, I can say without a doubt that the CKY videos, that the band CKY music videos was a very collaborative effort. We would all ring in with our creative and artistic input. Bam had a vision of the storyline. Darren and Chad would add with their showmanship abilities and their personality. And also appearances from the CKY crew was always really cool. You have Rab making cameos. You have Brandon DiCamillo, Rake making cameos. It was a strange brew and one that worked perfectly.
Yeah, Flesh and Gear. I mean, that was, you had everybody in that one. I mean, and that was just on a blank soundstage or whatever it was. But still, I mean, it worked though.
Well, I've always thought that it's a very special and unique relationship when you can make a living and be creative and artistic with a certain group of individuals. When you found someone you have a relationship with that you can pay your bills and also be creative together, that is to be held in the highest regards and to be cherished. I mean, it's you can't put that into words. It's just impossible to qualify the importance of that relationship to an artist, and also that kind of trust. And there was times we didn't always trust each other. I mean, we got into some big fights on some of those music videos too.
As that would happen,
but that's
going to
happen.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're working on something that through which you have a creative investment, and you're working closely together with friends and under tight deadlines, and you are going to have to yell out some of your problems to get them done fast. So
that was a good time to be growing up, man.
Well, it was a very special time. It was a very, 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 very special time in all of our lives. We had an influence in cinematography. We had an influence in filmmaking, television, reality television. Did I mention music? So it's like you have all these facets of pop culture that we were on the cutting edge of. And it was just, there's a word, zeitgeist, and which means, literally means sign of the times. It means, the perfect force at the perfect time in history. In a lot of ways, we were very lucky. We were lucky that anyone cared enough to see someone get pushed on a shopping cart and slam on the ground in 35 millimeter film. I mean, it was a miracle anyone cared. So in a lot of ways, our hard work paid off, but, we're also very blessed, and to have people recognize what we were doing and why it was special, and to get a fan base out of that, it should never have happened. I mean, if you were to tell me before all this stuff started that this would be one of the most important and special times of my life, and you described to me some of the shit we were doing, I never would believe you. I never would have believed I wanted to do it or that it was possible.
But did you guys consider it work then? I mean, in the midst of all of it?
It was work, especially when we were doing network television, when we were doing the MTV stuff. There came a time when it was interesting because the folks at MTV were so gracious. I think the best thing to happen to the CKY stuff, one of the best things that happened to Viva La Bam and the MTV stuff was an exec over at MTV named Lauren Dolgen. She was just amazing. She got it. All her creative notes were very insightful and very helpful, and she was just such an amazing and energetic person to help facilitate all of the creative projects that we were doing at the time onto MTV. You also had Troy Miller, who directed Viva La Bam, who, he kindly explained to the crew, hey, we're visitors here. We're from the outside. Let these guys do their thing. Trust them. You also had a couple people who shall remain nameless who were a hindrance to the creative projects. A hindrance to the creative process. They would do things like try and start fires and put them out, try and pit us against one another, try and have us argue and fight, and they would create drama. Some people are just like that in any business. So I don't care if you work at the Home Depot or McDonald's or you're working in an office, you're always going to have douchebags around trying to pit other people against one another to get some kind of, to gain some kind of sick control. You always have a domineering force upon you in all your endeavors. So we definitely had a couple of them. And those people will never go away. As soon as you get rid of one in your life, they will reemerge and reappear and reanimate in another person.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing,
that's showbiz, kid.
Were they? They were. I guess they were reality shows in the most ordinary sense. But was it even? Was Viva La Bam and all those? Were they? I guess you can't say they were scripted, right? Where was the line?
Well, I'll say this. People always ask me how many episodes of Viva La Bam I made. And I say, well, we made one episode. We did it 44 times. Look, here's the deal, and here's what it all boils down to, and I'm going to say it right here, is that television programming only exists for one purpose, and that is to fill the blank spaces in between the commercials. I mean, really, commercials drive it all. So when you make a show, it has to be similar to the last show and all the shows on that season. Why does it have to be similar? Because you need to draw a demographic in order to attract an advertiser to pay for the show. I mean, the shows don't make themselves, and the crew doesn't show up for free, and people need to get paid for their craft, and advertisers need to attract an audience to their products. So, it's necessary for television. So we had a challenge to be creative, but also adhere to a strict formula, which would facilitate the consequent seasons of the show. And I think we did an amazing job. MTV, again, very, very insightful and very aware and very keen on delivering great reality adventure, while also adhering to the structure.
Gotcha. Going back to the IDR video album, are there any videos? You know what? We won't even contain it to just the IDR era. Any CKY video that you have done, are there any ones that stick out as maybe in your mind, and as an artist, inconsistent with how you pictured that song to be represented visually? I mean, it's kind of a smart way of saying, hey, what's your least favorite music video? But which one would you say, if any, would maybe bring the most discontentment as an artist?
Yeah, I know what you mean. That is a very good question.
That's right. Because I'm still pissed that I went to work instead of going to the A#1 shoot. But the A#1 Roller Rager video had an intro, or it originally had an intro to it.
Yeah. You know what? I would say that there was a music video that was not consistent with the CKY sensibility. It was A1 Roller Rager. There was a couple reasons for that. Number one, we wanted to create a music video that looked like it was shot in the 1980s. We wanted to make something that was visually different. We wanted to shoot on video rather than film because we wanted the color saturation of 1980s music videos, which were largely shot on video. So we wanted to make it look like a production from the 1980s. But okay, so let's talk about the way the video was ultimately presented to the world. We had a making of for MTV2, which was eventually shown internationally, all throughout Europe and Scandinavia. The making, CKY, the making of A1 Roller Rager, which is a great little making of special. But we made a short film to set up the context of the music video, basically a little science fiction angle that at the time the label didn't understand what we were doing. And we were trying to create the world that the A1 Roller Rager lived in, and why there was this strange sport. And so we had this beginning where these rat people came and, abducted him and forced him into this brutal sport. And when the label released it, at the time they didn't. A lot of music video. A lot of labels at the time were suffering because of illegal downloads. Album sales were down, and that was their bread and butter. So what they would do was, a lot of these labels were making music videos and trying to show them exclusively on their website to try and attract traffic. Now, why did this fail? Because people were going to YouTube for the entertainment. A lot of the labels at the time were creating a model which was not realistic and would fail. But with a lot of businesses, again, there's a groupthink mentality where if your boss has an idea, everyone in the room is afraid to tell him it's a bad idea. So the music video was never released properly. And And it's a shame because I thought that in its entirety, the music video set up by the short film that we made was a really cool little idea.
I guess CKY fans in general, the majority of us saw it on YouTube, and when we saw it in, I guess, what you guys would have considered maybe an abridged version.
Yeah, and it was pixelated as hell. I mean, the quality was terrible. It looked like, they wanted people to see a shitty version of it on YouTube and go to their website, which, when you look at the attention span of the average YouTuber, and also they didn't have the wisdom of knowing that if you go to the website, we'll see a better version. And on the website, they didn't even have the short film that we made. So it was, it was a losing battle on that music video. But, I'm still proud of what we accomplished.
Sure. And, it bummed me out a lot because, I mean, in my opinion, Carver City was not their only masterpiece, but certainly a new masterpiece and almost like a new sandbox to work with creatively, right? As far as music videos.
Yeah.
Creative elements that could have come together in one huge visual piece.
Yeah, at the time, again, the music industry was going through so many changes. There weren't budgets anymore. Everyone was making music videos for free with stuff from their college or home video cameras. And just I think as a whole, the entire music industry, as far as music videos go, suffered greatly because a lot of the music videos that came out at the time were very amateurish. And were done by kids who just wanted something for their reel and had access to, like a high-def technology. Like, I have a high-def camera, why can't I shoot a music video? And so I think during that era, there's a lot of very piss-poor music videos that came out. There's a lot of great ones, too. A lot of very masterful directors and producers took that technology and made it work out well, especially with the way they deliver that to the audience and fans.
To see so many bands that maybe 30 years ago, where could they have gone? You know what I mean? It seems like a lot of doors have closed because of the change of the industry and technology.
A lot of doors are closed, but a lot of open as well. Yep. Again, the power has changed hands. I think one of the biggest reasons the music industry is suffering these days is because fans don't have the allegiance to buy albums, and it really hurts me. Really hurts me to hear kids say, "Well, why should I pay for it? I could get it for free." It's like, but you don't get another one if you don't buy it. And they're like, "But why should I pay for this? He's a rock star. He has all the money in the world." And these guys these musicians don't have all the money in the world. They're not millionaires. They don't all live in these big mansions and have all these fancy cars like you think they do. A lot of them lead very modest lives and have to save and budget very, very wisely. And by the fans not standing by the artist, it's sad, and stealing their intellectual property, which is what you're doing when you download for free. I know it doesn't feel like it because you're just clicking on something with a mouse, but you're literally stealing from another person, taking away their art. And I don't want to get on a big political thing, but you know what? In communist countries, historically, artists have not had the right to their intellectual property. And that's what you're doing. You're stepping the world up to communism, where people don't have a right to create and be able to market and sell what they make. And here's how I explain it to the kids. I'm like, okay, you downloaded that album for free. Well, why don't you? They're like, yeah, well, it's a good album. Okay, well, you're good at mowing lawns. Why don't you mow my lawn for free? Well, let's work. Well, dude, it was work for someone to make that money, to make that album, and they spent money on it, and they spent their time on it, just as you would buying a lawnmower and mowing lawns as a side business, kid.
It's true.
No one expects you to flip burgers for free, and I know these kids don't have a lot of money, but I am very I took a very strong stance against piracy. I just, for many, many reasons. And it's not only because, it hurts the artists around me. It hasn't affected me because I'm a television producer. I get paid to do, that's my bread and butter right now is producing television. So
Right.
I get paid to show up. So it doesn't affect me, but it hurts the art world, and it hurts the artists that you claim to be supporting and fans of.
I don't think a lot of kids, it's crazy now that you think about it, because the kids that are 18 now, 17, 18, were born with the internet. So, I went through, I had the whole, record your favorite song, record the tail end of your favorite song off the radio on a cassette. And you never would have imagined that somebody would have pegged that as stealing, but you weren't sharing it with the world. And I lived through the CDs and everything. But kids now, they grew up with it, and they don't. They just don't know any better, and it's so hard to. It's just such a radically different thing. It's a radically different time.
Yeah, and I, being an older guy and being part of Generation X, I really love the fact that I had a reach on both sides. When I was a kid and it was time to go to a party, you had to have directions. You had to have written down directions or someone who knew how to get there. And guess what? If you got lost, you'd have to go find a payphone and call and find change, which is always a pain because you had to buy a candy bar or something to have just enough for the payphone. You call somebody and you pray that they're home in order to get directions to this place, and hopefully they know where the hell you are in order to talk you through it. So it was, and there was no, at least when you pirated something back then, there was an expenditure. Like at least in order to pirate someone's cassette tape, you had to buy another cassette tape for $6.99.
That's true.
So it made you appreciate and go through a process of piracy. What a buddy of mine, I've made 2 music videos for, Vinny Paz from the collective Jedi Mind Tricks. He said that kids actually come up to him at shows and say, "Dude, great new album, man. I just downloaded it from the internet." And he turns to me and he goes, what parents bring these kids up? Why would you proudly announce to somebody that you stole their intellectual property? It's just weird to me but you're right. They don't know any better, and they don't come from better. So
they don't. What
are you going to do?
Yeah, there would be no other reason for them to say that. They really don't think that they're doing anything wrong, but.
Well, people, it's funny. When I was doing the CKY videos, a lot of my older friends who weren't really my friends, but people I'd come up with, guys in the old crew, they'd be drinking. They'd be like, "You know what, dude? Sick of watching you get rich and famous off the shit I invented." Like, number one, I'm not famous. Number two, we're definitely not getting rich off making the CKY videos. But how do you figure you invented this stuff? "Well, dude, I was playing around in a shopping cart. We were doing all that shit way before you were doing it." Yeah, but did you learn to be a professional skater and make a great skate video? Did you edit any of it up? Did you bother to film any of it? No. So therein lies what separates. All these kids are like, "Oh, I could make that. They're lucky somebody cares about it." You know what? Maybe you could have. Maybe you could have made that song. Maybe you could have recorded it. But you know what? You didn't. You sat there and you ate Fruit Loops and watched cartoons. That's what you did. So, to kids who say I could have done that, well, guess what? You didn't. And you know what? If you can, go just make your own music and just listen to that. Don't steal other people's stuff. All right, I'm done on the topic. Don't get me started.
Oh my! I can't even believe we've been going for probably the better part of 2 hours now. Holy shit!
Yeah, you can get 2 shows out of this, definitely. I think you should make one where we're talking about the art, just art and the struggle of the artist, and another one about CKY.
Yeah, we'll do it.
You can definitely get 2 great shows out of it.
We'll do it.
Cool.
It's funny. I didn't hunt them down, but I was in New Hope, Pennsylvania, not too long ago with my girlfriend, and that's my favorite place on earth. It's a little storybook town. I swear to God, I'm going to live there eventually. I went into a store on Mechanic Street in New Hope called God Save the Queens. And I walked in there, and I looked at the girl at the counter. I said to myself, what the fuck? She looks really familiar. It turns out she was in the A Number One music video.
Punk Rock Michelle. Yeah, she's the best. Love that girl. I just may marry her. Yeah, she's awesome, man. If she has a smile that could light up a room. She's a Generation Xer like me. She's from the old Zipperhead crew. Been doing punk rock stores since her late teens. She's a hell of a glass blower and a glass artist as well. She's just an amazing individual. A lot of positive energy in that girl. Yeah, but she was in A1 Roller Rager. She was the one with the blue hair. Yeah, Chad's not only an amazing artist and guitar player and writer and performer and musician, but he has a real head for the business of that's required of musicians to make it in the music industry. Definitely.
I mean, I don't even know what a record label's supposed to be now. The lines are blurred between everything. You know what I mean? You kind of have to just be whatever you need to be at any given moment.
You got to find a niche. You have to be willing to adapt too. It's like somebody very close to me explained it to me like this one time, and I was at a crossroads in my career again after the whole CKY and Jackass cycle had kind of come to an end. I was like, what the hell am I going to do with the rest of my career? And a really good friend, actually my mother, she said, and it's the most ridiculous parallel you can make, but it made sense. She said, did you ever see All in the Family? I said, of course I've seen All in the Family. She said, the guy who played Archie Bunker, Carroll O'Connor, he probably asked himself the same question after he did that. He was typecast as Archie Bunker. What the hell is he going to do? And then he reemerged in all these other shows as dramatically different characters. It's funny, too, because even Steve Jobs always said, one of his philosophies of business was, you have to make some decisions, and some of them are going to be wrong decisions. And then you go and you look at what didn't work and what worked, you improve upon what worked, and you learn from what didn't work. So being an entrepreneur in the art world, specifically in your case, in the music industry, you have to learn to evolve and adapt.
I can't imagine doing something like this for 8 hours and then say, okay, that's it. I'm going to dedicate the rest of today to other things that are going on in my life. It doesn't really work like that. It always is. You're always doing it.
Yeah, I can't draw a line of demarcation here. I can't do that.
I've tried.
As far as, everyone's like, well, you got to learn to budget your time. But you know what? I can't turn off the times in my life when I want to write. I can't say, okay, it's time to write, time to be creative. Okay, boom, I'm going to write for 2 hours. Okay, and stop. Now I'm going to enjoy myself and go out with my friends. And you know what? I've always looked at people with amazement and envy, people who are good at planning their lives. I must lack that skill because I just can't do that. I can't turn it on and off. I have to be ready and motivated to do the things that I need to do to be an artist. You have to get into the right zone. At least I do. So, I've always kind of envied people and was amazed by their ability to plan out their life and when they can allow themselves to be creative and not. I don't possess that skill.
I got a couple questions here from the social networks. Got a couple from Instagram, Twitter. I think one of them's about Novak. If I have any that you don't feel like answering, we'll just skip it. I'll cut them out.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we got some questions from social networks here. I don't have the names, so I'm sorry if this is your question. Deal with it. It's in the show, so you can't complain. First question I got for Joe Frantz is, what happened to Deco? Where's Brandon DiCamillo?
A lot of people say that. A lot of people say, what happened to Deco? He dropped off the radar. Well, he didn't drop off the radar. There's no radar that he existed on that he just dropped off of. DiCamillo is his own person, and he's his own artist. He loves to create. He made an amazing film he worked for years on called Cattle Bag. And if you pirate Cattle Bag, you better get over my house and mow my lawn for free, buddy. Because, it's one of those things where it says a lot about you being a shitty person if you pirate that movie. Everyone within the sound of my voice, you go out and buy a copy of Cattle Bag, Brandon DiCamello's movie. It's amazing. DiCamello is just a great independent filmmaker. And, he's leading the type of lifestyle right now that he wants to lead. And you know what? That doesn't include trying to get on MTV every 5 minutes and be everyone's favorite funny guy. He doesn't need that. That's not what turns him on. It's not what makes him tick. But as far as personally, I haven't talked to DiCamello in years. I've tried to reach out to him a couple times, and there was a time in Dico's life, and that's what he did. He did CKY, and he did Viva La Bam, and he was that guy, But to DiCamello, that's something he did in the past. And he's happy that he did it. He's, was totally stoked on it, and now he's just doing other stuff. So that's the kind of guy he is. He moves on. Sometimes he looks back, sometimes he doesn't look back, and, CKY is something he used to do, and he's very proud of it.
Did Rab really shit on a locker? I don't even know if you would know that one, but I got that one.
Yeah, in high school, Rab got kicked out of high school for shitting on a locker and smearing the shit all up and down the locker. I think Bam was the one that instigated that, and Rab got kicked out of school from it. And his father took him home, said, "Stand in the mirror and tell yourself you're a piece of shit."
Holy shit.
Yeah, and he's like, well, he looks in the mirror, he's like, all right, I'm a piece of shit. Actually, that line is in the movie Haggard. Ryan Dunn says it. But, that did happen. That's the truth. Novak's actually doing good. I talked to him not too long ago, a couple days. We worked on the new book. For those of you who don't know, Brandon Novak is a guy in the CKY crew. He's also from the Jackass and Viva La Bam fame, making appearances in all that stuff, as well as MTV's Unholy Union. Currently, there's a guy named Jason Chapman who owns Charm City Skate Park, who's making a Brandon Novak documentary called Where's My Needle, and it's insane. He has appearances and interviews by all the best skaters in the world. Tony Hawk, Kerry Getz, Tim O'Connor, Bam Margera. I mean, all these people who are part of Novak's life. And he has some very special moments in there. There's a moment when I caught Brandon Novak shooting up with a needle while we were making the film. I actually start crying on camera. It was horrible. So yeah, there's this great documentary. He's been shooting it for years, and I've seen a rough cut, and it's amazing. John Waters is in the movie, for God's sake. So yeah, so I don't know when the movie's going to be. It's not coming out anytime. It's not like it's dropping next month or anything. It's a work in progress. But keep your eye on Jason Chapman, who owns Charm City Skate Park, who's making the Brandon Novak documentary. So anyway, for those of your fans that don't know, I co-authored a book with Brandon Novak, which means, I took Novak's stories and wrote the book, basically. I mean, reading it, you can tell it's not written by Novak altogether. But, how that started was back when we were doing Viva La Bam, Bam and Novak approached me with an idea for Novak's book. They asked me to help out. And I was like, this kid's going to get me to write his fucking book for him. I'm not going to do that. So I told him I'd do an outline and all this stuff. Sat down with him, helped him flesh it out. And a couple days later, I was like, hey, how's it going on the new working on the book? He goes, dude, I lost the outline. Can we do another one? I was like, dude, I spent like fucking 6 hours helping you with that, man. You just lose it? I was like, go to hell. So like 2 months later, I see him and he's writing. I was like, what you writing? He's like, my book. I was like, I thought you lost the outline. He goes, no, I found it again. So he wrote enough passages, so I took the book and we made it. I expanded upon it, did a lot of interviews with people, and made a book called Dream Seller, an addiction chronicle, and it outlines Novak's background as a pro skater who was discovered at an early age of, I think, 14 by Tony Hawk, and went from being a amateur going pro skater, traveling around the world, signing autographs to little kids, to being a complete junkie, taking baths, living off the street, bathing in Burger King bathrooms, and selling his body to middle-aged men for heroin money. So that was the first book. Opened up a lot of people's eyes to the world of addiction. Not only addicts, but we all have addicts in our lives. So whether you were, whether your daughter was an addict, or your parents are addicts, or you have a son or a nephew who's fallen to the disease of addiction, the book has brought a great amount of insight to people, to helping them cope with the addicts around them. The book was very well received. It was an Amazon.com bestseller, and it, the demand has been there for a second book, which we were working on, but we were scared to move forward with it because a lot of it dealt with Brandon's, with Novak's relationship with his father, who actually taught him the drug trade, who, they've done drugs together from when Brandon was a teenager. He taught Brandon how to conduct himself in jail. They've shared women together. I mean, it's a sick relationship that facilitated Novak's lifestyle and addiction. Also, in the book, we address his jail sentence. He got arrested on when we did Jackass 3D. He had some outstanding warrants. He hurt himself on a stunt. Went to the hospital. They ran his name. Found out he had some warrants. He went to jail for 10 months. So that's a major topic of the book, and also his relationship with Bam Margera, and Bam's willingness to try and help him out in vain. So that's the book. We don't have a title for the book. The current title for the book is The Addiction Chronicles of Brandon Novak. That's just a working title, but it's a work in progress. And working with Novak is very, 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 very difficult. He's often in a very bad place and can't bring himself to work. But now he's getting, he gets the urine test from his parole officer. So he's in a lot better place, a lot less vulnerable and susceptible to any drug abuse. So we've been working together pretty hard on this. We're kicking some ass. Novak wasn't in the CKY videos that much. He had some parts in Haggard. He would show up and, he would do something very offensive, such as, it's no secret, I'm not talking shit. He would steal from his friends and he stole a lot of stuff from Bam over the years, credit cards, skateboards, whatever he could get his hands on to sell for drug money. And he still does it. He's still doing it. I mean, we're like 15 years into this whole thing, and he's still selling the dream. He's a recovered addict. He's in my prayers nightly. But anyway, yeah. So when we did the CKY videos, you couldn't rely on him to be around. You couldn't rely on him to be where he says he was going to be, or when he was around, you film with him. When he's not, you don't know where he is, and he's on the streets of Baltimore. Not only that, it's a long time to be selling the dream to people that you're a recovering addict. I mean, how many times can you say, dude, I'm doing great, man. I stopped doing drugs, and I'm looking for a job. Like, how many years can you be saying that same song and dance? Yet he's managed to do it for 15 years, and people still believe him. So, again, that's part of the disease is you're not only addicted to the drugs, you're addicted to a lifestyle, and you're addicted to getting over on people to facilitate that life. It's a sick and sad business. And, again, Novak is always in my prayers. I love him. He's my little brother. He's a very tragic character.
We got about 2 podcasts worth of material here. I think we decided earlier on we're going to split this up a little bit. We're going to do a CKY related one. And then we're going to do more of an artistic one, the struggles of being an artist, filmmaker. I don't know which one we're going to release first. I guess we'll figure that out after I'm done editing it. Joe, what do you got going on right now? What's going on in your world?
Over the past year, I've been working very hard on the new book with Brandon Novak, the sequel to Dream Seller, which was an Amazon.com bestseller, chronicling Novak's addiction. I've also been shooting and producing a lot of shows for National Geographic, which is a huge thrill. I mean, for me, it's coming full circle. To be involved with, with a brand, with a name like National Geographic. I mean, it's a dream come true. Also, currently, I'm working with MTV, making a CKY special. We don't have a title yet. I think it's going to be called CKY The Greatest Hits. That's our working title anyway. And it's a 1-hour special dedicated to the best skits and stunts and history of CKY.
Oh, that's badass too, man. Holy shit. You got your plate full, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is.
Weren't you trying? Yeah, I mean, weren't you trying to start a podcast of your own?
Yeah, I ran out of time. I would love to do my own podcast. As a co-host of Sirius XM's Radio BAM, which is no longer airing, one of the things that the fans really liked, they really liked my stories and my insight, because it was, I have a different way of verbally expressing myself than like Bam and Novak and those guys. So yeah, I've been wanting to do my own podcast for a while, where we talk about everything from psychology and dream analysis. I interpret dreams, to talking about the old classic CKY days. People love hearing those stories. To things that are more topical. And also, one of the reasons it's taken so long is I want to have a method of doing it where we're taking live calls. To me, that's very important, is to have a live interaction with a lot of the fans and just callers who just want to get involved with one of our topics. So that's something in the works. It's been in the works for a while. I'm looking basically for the right guy who can co-host and also set up all the tech stuff. I'm not a techie guy when it comes to audio. I wouldn't know how to patch through live callers, and it's just not what I do, not my skill set. So I'm looking for the right guy.
I had no idea this was going to go so long and feel like 15 minutes went by. But, dude, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Well, Joe, I had a great time, and, all I can say is thank you for having me on. It's been awesome. We've been talking for a long time, and it feels like 10 minutes has gone by. And please keep on doing the work you're doing in the music industry. I think it's very important, and you're helping a lot of people facilitate their artistic dreams. So you're doing something to give back to the community as well. So thank you.
Dude, anytime you want to come back on, let's do it.
All right, that sounds awesome. Can't wait. Send me the link.
Will do.
Bye, brother.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.